Good afternoon, everybody. I almost said good morning, but it's afternoon. I'm typically coming to you guys early in the morning, or I say early, but it's probably not typically early. It's not really early, but it is. It is afternoon. So, how many of you guys have already eaten lunch? Anybody have already eaten lunch? Tell me what you ate for lunch. I promise not to bring it on the screen, but I just want to know what you ate. Do me a quick favor, if you could, please make sure that you text somebody, invite somebody in to this is our 1 p.m. a special presentation of our FireHouse Online experience. Mr. Wanda said chicken noodle soup with the soda on the side. Hey, okay, no, but that's great. That's a great healthy choice. Pigalindo is live from Shipping Joanna Gaines' house. Absolutely. Because I know what you're thinking, like, that is not Pastor Phil's house. This is not my house. This is like a very modern looking house. I'm very a simple guy. Like, honestly, we just hung up like pictures and stuff. And we've been living in our house and bought our house back in 2013. So, it's not as nice, but we do good. Symphony says, I plan on eating dinosaur nuggets. All right, dinosaur nuggets. Serenity said waffles. I thought it was alone, but I love breakfast for lunch. I love breakfast for lunch. Like, I can eat pancakes for lunch. I could eat waffles and eggs and bacon for lunch, and I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, guys, thank you guys for joining us. Again, make sure that you're sharing this. Make sure that you comment, that you like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And hit that little bell. Many of you probably hit the bell to get notified when we're going live. So that's amazing. So please do that. Please share that. That would be amazing. Sharing is caring. So please share this. Text somebody. Tell them, hey, we're live right now at FH North students on our YouTube channel. So make sure that you do that. That would be absolutely good. Anything in the fridge is absolutely what I would eat right now. I haven't eaten lunch, so I'm not hangry, but I'm getting a little hungry. All right, and so we have an amazing day planned for you guys today, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. Miss D said, I love breakfast for dinner. I think breakfast is good anytime, right? It's amazing anytime. So listen, I got a quick video that I'm going to play, and then we're going to dive into some worship with Symphony, Jaden, and Emery, right? Well, first of all, we got to give a big, huge birthday shout out to my dude, Jaden Baker, who turned 15 yesterday. Also want to give a big shout out to Jada Lewis, who also had a birthday this weekend. Happy birthday to you two. I hope you guys had an amazing day. And without further ado, let's dive into this quick video. And then after that video, we're going to dive into some worship together. All right, let's worship together.
Promises, time and time again, you have proven you'll do just what you said. Though the storms may come and the wind may blow, I'll remain steadfast and let my heart learn when you speak a word, it will come to pass. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness my anchor to the ground, my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. I put my faith in Jesus, my anchor to the ground. He's my hope and firm foundation. He'll never let me down. No, he'll never let me down. Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting sun, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me.
So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
Welcome back, everybody. Did y'all enjoy that song? Like, isn't it amazing? And just resonated with me that great is God's faithfulness to us. That even in this pandemic, even in our struggles, even what is happening in our world, great is the faithfulness of God. Can you write that in the comments? Great is God's faithfulness to me. Declare it over your life. Great is God's faithfulness to me. He's always faithful. He's always been faithful, and he will always be faithful. Well, listen, thank you, Symphony. Thank you, Jaden. Thank you, Emery, for taking us into worship. I love when we can incorporate worship in our segments, and it just does something to me. So thank you guys for all your work and putting in the effort to make that happen. So let's dive into week number 1 of our series that we're calling What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, right? Growing up, I remember thinking at the age of 13, 14, 15, I know everything there is to know about life. And the sad thing is I knew nothing. Even as an adult, I'm still learning. As a father, as a husband, I'm still learning because I don't know anything, and I'm still learning as I'm, growing. But I want to start off by asking this question. Do you ever feel like you're living in two different worlds? And I'm not talking like we got the best of both worlds like Hannah Montana. I'm not talking about that. But there is an actual world where it's, you know, at school or with your friends, in the band, or even playing sports, you know. But then there's also your life at home, right? And so one of the things that I'm just a little leery of sharing, that to kind of explain this, is that you know, when I'm at home, I'm a little less patient. I've heard that I'm a little more mean. You guys have never seen my mean side, but you know, my family has. And I think the reason why is because the more that we spend time with each other, and our family is the people that we spend the most time with, and so obviously we're going to have some family issues, right? But you know, we all act a certain way when we're at home that we would never act in front of our friends or at school or even in public, right? Like I remember going to friends' houses and you know, volunteering to wash their dishes, right? You know, because I'm trying to be nice. But like I remember growing up, like I would not want to touch any dishes at my house, right? But when I was at my friend's house, I would volunteer. I would vacuum. I would do different things, right? And so, but why do we act two different and completely different ways depending on where we are, right? I think there's so many different reasons for this, but I think one of the main reasons for me is I feel like my home is like my personal world. This is my space. This is my world. And everybody in the house is just living in it, right? And for example, like there are things that, you know, maybe happen and I'm asked a question to do something, right? And I think the first question that pops into our heads is, how does this affect me? How does what I'm being asked of, or what is being asked of me, how does this really affect me, right? And one of the things that we've got to understand is as we respond to how things are affecting us, the people in our homes, the people in our houses are responding to how we affect them, right? So I think a good question to really start this conversation is, what do you do when things are tough at home, when the mood is off, and when you know you're a part of the reason why things are tense, but you have no idea what to do about it? You know, and this is a real situation that is happening even now, especially because we're spending a lot more time as a family together. And I hope I'm not alone in that, right? But listen, I want to put your mind at ease. I want you to know that what you're experiencing, the difficulty that you're facing with your family, isn't unique to just your family. It's been going on for thousands of years. And over the next couple of weeks, we're going to spend some time looking at the life of Joseph. Now, Joseph was one of the most famous people in the first half of history in the Bible. You know, and he's actually a guy just like us who found himself in all kinds of situations where he didn't know what to do. And so I'm going to kind of give you some history of what's happening. Hey, Miss Kiki. But, you know, for Jacob, we're going to be looking at Genesis 37. And we're going to start with verse number 6 and number 7. But I'm just going to kind of paraphrase what is happening in this story. Now, Joseph was an individual who his father loved, right? His father loved him so much, Jacob, that he made a robe specifically for Joseph. And that robe for Joseph and his brothers meant two completely different things. For Joseph, it was a symbol that his father loved him. But for his brothers, it was another symbol that how much more Jacob was loved than them. And that made them very angry towards Joseph, right? And this wasn't the only issue. Joseph had a series of dreams, and that's where we're picking up. Now, Joseph was sending a message to his brothers about the dream that he had. He said, hey guys, listen, I know that I'm going to be very powerful one day, and you guys are going to come and you guys are going to worship me. Now, speaking from a older brother's perspective, like if one of my 3 younger brothers came to me and said, hey, one of these days you're going to bow down before me, I would probably be like, you're crazy. I ain't listening to you. That is not going to fly. But let's read what happens in Genesis chapter 37. We're going to read verse number 8. It says, his brother said to him, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dreams and what he had said. So let me kind of give you a little bit more backstory on this family, because this is not the Brady Bunch. This is not the Jeffersons. These are not the Cosbys, right? And imagine, okay, so there's one father. His name is Jacob, right? And Jacob he saw this woman and he wanted to marry this woman. So he worked for this woman. Well, he was tricked and he was actually given to be wed the woman that he liked, her sister, right? And Jacob was like, well, what do I got to do to get that one? And so the father said, you know what, you got to continue to work for me another 7 years. So that's what he did. So he had 2 wives, right, who were sisters. And the story doesn't stop there. He actually had 2 more women in his life. And I know this sounds crazy, but there was 2 other women in his life that he had children with. So all in all, he had 12 boys, a whole dozen boys, right? And imagine, like, in this situation, the woman that he loved obviously was his favorite, but she couldn't wed or she couldn't have any kids until one day she had a kid and they named him Joseph. So obviously his favorite wife had a son who also becomes his favorite son, right? And so that's where the problems begin, right? And then to make it even worse, Joseph starts to share his dreams with his family. And, you know, this is what is true, like for all of us. Because like, Joseph, why would you do that? Because here's the reason why, and this is for all of us. We're hyper aware of how we are being treated, but not really being aware of how it's affecting everyone else, right? And so with Joseph's family, it's the same way. Like all of Joseph's brothers could see how this whole situation affected them, right? They obviously felt they were saw some unfairness and some injustice, right? And so you're probably asking yourself, like, why are we reading this story today? Well, several reasons, but to name a few, to show us that family has been complicated from the beginning, right? Family has been complicated from the beginning, right? But also to teach us to pay attention, listen to this, to how our actions and even our situations affect the people we live with. To teach us to pay attention to how our actions and even our situations affect the people that we live with. And this one's my favorite, to remind us that tension left unresolved will never just go away. It will always escalate to something bigger, right? And so just a little teaser for next week. We're going to see how Joseph's situation escalated into a dumpster fire. So stay tuned for next week. And so, you know, here's a question that I think is appropriate to ask. Like, what could everyone in this family have done differently? And so let's start with Joseph, because he's not the innocent bystander. Joseph could have started to see himself as a part of the problem, as one person in the family, in a large family, and not the center of the family, right? Yeah. And so, man, like, we have to realize that Joseph too, like, even though he was treated as the favorite, we have to realize that, you know, he played some part in it because he saw himself as the entire family. He took whatever he wanted and what he said, and he didn't really take into account how it was affecting the other people. But he's not alone. Like, his dad got some blame too. The dad has to recognize that, you know, his favoritism was impacting everybody, right? His favoritism, him bringing McDonald's home to only Jacob, wasn't cool, and everybody had to fend for themselves. That wasn't cool. So the dad had to recognize that him paying favorites was not a good idea. And then also his brothers, they could have chilled out a little bit on the grudge and the gossip about Joseph, and we're gonna read a little bit later in the upcoming weeks that they actually sold Jacob to slavery, right? Crazy story. This is not the end of the story. This is just the beginning. But his brothers could have chilled out, to be honest. And then for everyone involved, they could have just ignored Jacob's dream and not allowed their insecurities to control them, right? They knew that, although that he was being treated, Joseph was being treated as a favorite, like they could allow their insecurities to control. That's exactly what happens with your insecurities will eat at you so much, and it'll make you respond in certain ways, and it'll also ultimately take control if you allow it. Right? So the point of this whole story and the reason why we're bringing up Joseph's story is to let you know that their family drama isn't different from ours, right? So whether you're the favorite one, you're the angry one, you're the firstborn, you're the lastborn, you're the quiet one, or you're the one who won the gold medal in door slamming, the truth is the same. There is a role that you play in your family. There is a role that you play in your family. So what does that mean to us? We have to pay attention to how your words and your actions contribute to the tone and the temperature of the house, right? So I don't know if you've ever walked into a room and you can just feel the tension, right? It's so thick in the room that you just walk in and you can just feel something is not right, and you can actually feel like you can cut it with a knife, like cutting through butter, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever been there or if you walked in a room and it's kind of like you're walking in on eggshells, right? And so you have to ask yourself this question, or these two questions: are you improving it? The it being the tone and the temperature of your house. Are you improving it, or are you making it more tense? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves, is are we improving it? And here, I gotta stop here. I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to get through this without having to say this, but I gotta say it, right? So yelling and fighting, bickering and murmuring is not going to fix anything. Actually, it's making things worse, right? So it's not a good idea to be yelling across the room and causing, it's not going to resolve anything. It's probably actually going to make things worse. And so my encouragement to you is you've got to pay attention to how you are affecting your family. Somebody write that in the comments, because that's the bottom line for today. Pay attention to how you affect your family. And I know that seems like a daunting task, like, you don't know my family. Well, I know families, and we've got sometimes issues happening and may arise in the family. So if you're like me and you're not sure where to begin, we're going to be looking at a passage of scripture that actually the Apostle Paul wrote to a church in Philippi, right? And so the reason why this is so a reason why we're bringing this conversation up and why we're using the scripture is because in many ways these people were working together so much that they were like family, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever been around family that's really not your biological family, but you hang out so much that you just begin to treat each other like family. And that's exactly what was happening with this church in Philippi. And they were trying to figure out, how can we live together, right? And so this is what the Apostle Paul said in the book of Philippians chapter 2, starting with verse number 3. It says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself." Right? If you have a physical Bible or if you're taking notes, I think you should jot that down. In humility, value others above yourself. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others. As we continue to read, it says, "In your relationship with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who being in the very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, but he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So how do we start when we don't know what to do when it comes to the situations in our house? This is how we start. We have to start by paying attention to how we see ourselves, right? If we don't see ourselves equal to anyone in the house, we have our own selfish ambition, and we're not doing what the Apostle Paul told the church in Philippi, to in humility value each other above yourselves, right? And so we have to start by paying attention to how we see ourselves. That's very important. And I think this is important too. And I think this might be even a little more harder than doing that, is we've got to invite someone else to speak into how we treat our family, right? Because we're in the thick of things. We're in the eye of the storm. And sometimes we're not seeing the total picture, right? And sometimes it's important to bring other people from the outside to see how you're treating your family. And you got to have the right person, because you got to have somebody to say, hey man, I don't think it's a good idea for you to talk to your mom that way. She wasn't yelling at you, so it's not a good idea to yell at her. Or you got to have somebody to say, you know what, that's not a good idea to just really blow off your stepdad like that. Like, he's asking you a question and he wasn't yelling at you. He's actually being nice to you. You've got to invite someone else to speak, to see how you're treating your family. And I think this is a great one too. You got to ask someone who is older or wiser. And that is one of the best things that you can do when you don't know what to do, right? Asking someone older or wiser is one of the best things that you can do when you don't know what to do, right? Because here's the reality. This is why we have small groups. Like, we all need people around us. We all need community of people around us, like leaders who can really speak to what's going on in our family, and not only that, but to help us figure out what to do. This is why small groups are so vital and so important in our lives. When we don't know what to do, like, we get to talk to each other and ask each other questions like, man, I don't know what to do. Well, either you have somebody older or wiser to say, this is what I think should be a good idea for you to do. And they can speak to that thing and help you navigate through life. You weren't called to do life alone. And so that's why small groups are so important. I'm off my small groups soapbox. But anyway, that's why we do what we do. And so that's why we love small groups here at FireHouse North. And so imagine for a second if everybody in your family did this. Imagine if your whole family would do this. Check this out. What if everyone paid attention to how they affect everyone else? What if when we go to the store and we're getting something and we know that your mom was asking for something earlier, she needed you to pick up something else, or she mentioned that we're running out of toothpaste, and so you run by the toothpaste aisle, you go grab some toothpaste and you bring it home. Imagine if you would pay attention to how you are affecting each other, right? Be so much peace, right? Here's another thing. What would it do for your relationship with the people who live in your house? I want to set the record straight. Listen, the reason why you have so much conflict with the people in your home is because you spend the majority of your time with them, especially in this pandemic when we're not going anywhere or doing anything. We're going to get on each other's nerves. But we have to realize what it's going to do for our relationships when we pay attention to how things are affecting each other. Another thing is, what would it do for the general level of tension or even peace at our house? Here's the reality. None of us want to come home from work or school or coming home from wherever, from the gym or whatever, where we just had a bad day. Nobody wants to come home and not have peace in the home, right? And so we've got to do our part. And that's why I think this last one is important, because what if it could start with you? I believe it can. It can start with you. It's, here's the reality. Here's the thing. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to close. But listen, you can't control what people do. You're never going to be able to control what they do, how they treat you, what they say to you, the tone that they say, whatever they're going to say to you. You can't affect that. You can't change that. All you can do is control how you respond, how you react, how you respond, right? That's the only thing that you can do, right? And I want to encourage you to respond in peace. Somebody may be yelling at you, hey, go do this, go do that. Listen, you ain't got to yell. I got you. I'm going to do it right now. Or at least acknowledge them when they're saying, hey, throw the trash. Hey, Dad, I'm going to do that right now. I got you. Let me pause this game and I'm going to go do it, right? And without yelling like, no, let me do it after this game. Nah, that is not going to fix the situation. And so please, please, please do your part. Remember that you play an important role in the family and play your role, right? And let it start with you. Like, that is our prayer. Listen, we know that problems will arise, especially because we're spending a lot more time with our families. But listen, I don't know about you, but I want peace in my home, right? How many of you guys want peace in your home? How many of you guys want peace in your home after a bad day, or when you're coming home from school, or having a bad day, wherever? Like, just coming home, being able to relax, kick your feet up, and nobody's yelling at each other, nobody's fighting, nobody's yelling across the room, none of that stuff. Like, I believe that we can have peace in our homes, but let it start with you, okay? That's my prayer, and that's my desire for each and every one of you. And so, listen, we've come to the one of the most important parts of our whole connection today is small groups, right? I share with you why we do what we do. And the reason why that's so important, because why you do what you do affects how you do what you do. And because we love small groups, we don't see it as an obligation or like, oh man, like we got to jump on a car. No, we love, as leaders, we have been intentional about putting people around you that will encourage you, that love you, that want to see you win, that are setting you up to win, that want your family to win. And that's why we love small groups. And so I want to challenge you and encourage you. I don't care if you've never jumped on before. I want to encourage you this week. I want you to jump on today. If you're a high school girl or middle school girl, you ladies meet today at 5 p.m. If you need the information, my email address is down below. Send me an email. I'm going to send it right back to you so that you can jump on, because we want you to have community and we want you to be a part of our community, right? So high school girls, middle school girls, 5 p.m. today. High school boys, you also meet today at 6 p.m. Again, fellas, if you need the information, down below, send me an email. I'm going to send it right back to you. Also, middle school boys, you guys meet on Thursday night at 6:30. If you need the information, guess what it is? You guessed it. It is down below. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Also, don't forget, listen, we also have this thing that I've been doing since this pandemic started. I call it Zoom at Noon with Pastor Phil, okay? And I know that you guys are going back to school. Many of you started last week. Some of you guys are starting this week. And I know that might be hard for you to swing off, but we are going to discuss that in our small groups today. If Noon at Zoom on Fridays is cool, or should we do it on Saturday? Or an alternative, because I want us to stay connected. We've got to stay connected. Listen, we're better together, we're stronger together, and we can accomplish more together. And I believe that we can get through anything together, and that's how we're going to get through this pandemic, right? And so please, if you need the information to jump on that Zoom with me, this past weekend we just had a game time. We just got together, we just played games, and it was absolutely incredible. We had a lot of fun. We got to learn a lot about each other. And so I want you to jump on. If you need the information, it's down below. All right, let me do this one last thing before we leave, and we are going to pray, and then I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys for joining in. I know it wasn't the same time that we meet, but God is still the same God. The same God that we worship at 10 a.m. is the same God that we're worshiping at 1 p.m. All right, so thank you guys for joining. I love you guys. And let's pray. God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that we could come and just share your word. We know that your word never returns back to you void, but it accomplishes everything that you've sent it out to do. Father, I pray that you just continue to unify us, continue to hold us together as we are navigating through this uncertain times that we're living in. Father, I pray that this word would stick with us, that would resonate with us, something that was said, something that was spoken, that would challenge us to be the change that we want to see in our families, because we want to have peace in our homes, and help us to be the examples in everything that we do. We love you, we celebrate you, we honor you. Please bless our pastor and Bishop Joe B. Brady for all that they do for overseeing this amazing church, the Potter's House of North Dallas. And also bless Bishop T.D. Jakes and First Lady Sarita Jakes, our founders, for all the amazing things that they're doing all across the nation, all across the world. We love you, we celebrate you, we honor you. In Jesus' mighty name, everybody said, amen. Well, I love you guys, and thank you again for joining us. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in person soon, prayerfully. Can't wait to get back together. But until then, let's stay connected. Stay connected. Stay connected. Stay connected. Stay connected. Send me an email if you need the information. I love you guys, and have a great, great week. Peace.